What the hell is that? In the mid to late 1980s, there was an abundance of horror-themed video games for the various home micros and consoles of the time. Believe it or not, the R-rated movies The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween got releases on the Atari VCS. And for home computers, titles such as Dracula, Frankenstein, The Evil Dead, A Nightmare on Elm Street and E.T. Okay, maybe not E.T., but this game is pretty horrific. These early horror-themed games didn't really rely on realism, but they did thrive on atmosphere, the fear of the unknown and the imagination of us 80s kids. And of course, there's Friday the 13th, the computer game for the Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC and ZX Spectrum, a game that took the iconic slasher formula and turned it into something truly unsettling for its time. Released by UK software developers Domark in 1986, the game is inspired by the events of the second movie in the franchise, even though the front cover has the poster art from the fourth film, The Final Chapter. Managing directors Dominic and Mark made the most of the licence, even dressing as Jason Voorhees for the press launch and creating a stir in magazine publications at the time, with shocking front covers and gory advertisements, causing the mags to be flooded with complaints from angry parents. Even the high street store John Menzies refused to stock the game unless the cover was altered, and so the knife and the hockey mask were removed. And 2 years later, when Bug Byte re-released the game, they changed the cover art altogether. It came with an audio recording on the tape after the game data, containing a horror sound competition. Players had to guess correctly the 10 horror sound effects to be in with a chance of winning one of 5 Eureka colour monitors. And bizarrely, the game also came with 2 fake blood capsules. You know, the kind of which you would get in a joke shop. Now, many of you will be familiar with the NES version of Friday the 13th, but this LJN game wouldn't be released for another 3 years and is a completely different game to the one we're taking a look at today. So join me as we travel back to Camp Crystal Lake to take a look at Friday the 13th on the Commodore 64. Jason Voorhees is out for revenge after his mother's death and is hiding in the forest surrounding Crystal Lake. A group of unsuspecting holidaymakers arrive at the camp and it's your job to warn them of Jason, lead them to safety and defeat Jason before he kills you and your friends. There's 5 levels to the game, and for each level you control one of 5 different characters, each with their own preset levels of panic, strength and sanity, as shown by these meters in the bottom left. Once you start the game, you'll find yourself inside one of the 3 buildings, either the church, barn or cabin, and the first thing you must do is locate the cross and place it in a room in any one of these buildings. Now this room will be the safe sanctuary for your friends to hide out in, as Jason can't attack anyone while in this room. Then you have to tell your friends to go to the safe room by walking over to them, and they will automatically start heading for the location, although some will deviate from the path and start to wander off. Next, you have to identify Jason, as he is masquerading as one of the other campers and only reveals himself when he attacks or is attacked. So you have to go around hitting all your friends in order to check whether they are Jason or not. And when you do eventually find him, you'll notice he looks nothing like Jason in any way, shape or form. Seriously, he looks more like one of the T-Birds from Greece than a hockey mask wearing maniac. Once you find Jason, attack him with one of the many weapons that are scattered around the map. And according to the manual, these are the weapons that Jason has carelessly dropped, and you can only carry one at a time, and that is displayed at the bottom right. Once you defeat Jason, you'll receive bonus points for all the other surviving friends, and you move on to level 2. But start with a new character, and you have to hunt down Jason all over again. Now, one thing I almost forgot to mention are the jump scares or death scenes whenever one of your campmates are killed by Jason. So they appear completely at random, and when I was playing through this I didn't get a single one. So here's an interpretation of what happens when they do appear. Brace yourself. And now to address the elephant in the room. The music. Yes, that is Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and you'll notice that each area of the map has a different piece of music to fit that section. So there's the wedding march when you're in the church. The teddy bear's picnic when you're walking through the woods. The theme tune for the adventures of Robin Hood for the archery range. And of course, Old MacDonald for when you're around the farm or in the barn. Now, the game received pretty bad reviews at the time across all 3 platforms, such as Your Sinclair giving it a 3 out of 10, and Zap64 with just a 13% rating. But in all honesty, Friday the 13th isn't that bad. I certainly played a lot worse around that time. And what the hell is that? What are you doing?
Dustin, it's not like you do it.
Thank fuck for that.